Most beginners quit bourbon after one bad bottle, and it usually happens on the first try. Too much heat, not enough balance, and just like that, you think bourbon isn't for you. But the right first bottle changes everything. In 2026, shelves are louder than ever. Higher proof labels, bigger claims, more hype. So we ranked 10 standard bourbons from worst to best. But by what actually matters when you're new: smoothness, balance, first sip experience. If this saves you from buying the wrong first bottle, subscribe and let's get it right. And number 10 is where most people start. Number 10, Jim Beam White Label. If you've ever walked into a liquor store and grabbed a bourbon without thinking too hard, it was probably this one. It's everywhere. It's affordable. And for a lot of people, it's the default choice. Up front, you get that familiar corn sweetness. Light body, straightforward flavor, nothing confusing. In cocktails, it does the job. But neat, especially if you're just starting, it can feel a little flat. The sweetness shows up fast, but it doesn't evolve. The finish fades quickly. There isn't much depth pulling you back for another sip. It's not bad. It's just basic. And when you're trying to understand bourbon for the first time, basic doesn't always spark curiosity. You want something that feels a little more layered, a little more inviting. Jim Beam works, but it doesn't lead. So it opens this ranking at number 10, and number 9 already adds more character. Number 9, Bulleit Bourbon. This is where things start to get bolder. Bulleit uses a high rye mash bill, and you can feel it immediately. There's more spice, more edge, a drier character compared to Jim Beam. On the first sip, it feels sharper. The rye pushes forward, the mid-palate tightens up. The finish lingers with a little bite. For some people, that boldness is exciting. It feels like there's more personality here. But if you're brand new to bourbon, that same spice can come across as harsh. It doesn't ease you in. It introduces itself quickly. There's structure, there's clarity, there's confidence. What it doesn't always offer is softness. And for a first serious bottle, softness usually matters more than edge. Bulleit isn't a mistake. It's just a step towards something smoother. That's what keeps it at number 9. And number 8 starts to feel more composed. Number 8, Elijah Craig Small Batch. Now you start to notice real depth. Compared to the bottles below it, this feels richer right away. Deeper caramel, more toasted oak, a fuller body on the palate. The sweetness is darker. The mid-palate opens up more clearly, and the finish lasts longer than you expect at this level. It feels more serious, and that's both the strength and the challenge. For beginners, that oak presence can sometimes register as dryness, and dryness, especially early on, can feel like heat. Elijah Craig isn't aggressive, but it doesn't hold your hand either. It asks you to pay attention. When you do, it rewards you with more complexity than anything ranked below it. But the bottles ahead manage something impressive. They keep that depth while smoothing out the edges. Elijah Craig stands solidly in the middle of the pack. Strong, structured, just not quite effortless. And number 7 takes that structure even further. Number 7, Knob Creek 9 Year. Now we're stepping into real structure. 9 years in oak, 100 proof. You feel the difference immediately. The body is heavier. The oak is more pronounced. The sweetness turns darker and deeper. This isn't light or playful. It's confident. On the first sip, you get richness. On the second, you notice the weight. The finish lingers longer, and the spice builds gradually instead of flashing quickly. For beginners, this can feel impressive, but it can also feel big. There's more intensity here, more presence, and at 100 proof, the warmth sticks around. Knob Creek doesn't try to be gentle. It tries to be bold, and for many drinkers, that boldness is exactly the appeal. But the bottles ahead manage something more balanced, depth without as much force. Knob Creek commands attention. Number 6 refines that power. Number 6, Russell's Reserve 10-Year. This is where bourbon starts to feel refined instead of forceful. 10 years in oak gives it maturity, but the balance is what stands out. You get warm caramel, gentle vanilla, controlled spice that doesn't rush the palate. Compared to Knob Creek, the power feels more composed. It still has structure, but it doesn't push. The oak is polished instead of raw. The sweetness feels steady. The finish lingers in a calmer way. For beginners, this can feel like a safer step into more serious bourbon. There's depth here, but it's measured. The only reason it doesn't rank higher is that the bottles ahead combine this maturity with even more approachability. Russell's Reserve feels grown up, balanced, intentional, clean. It doesn't overwhelm. It just doesn't quite deliver the effortless first sip magic of the top 5. And number 5 brings that polish with a softer edge. Number 5, Woodford Reserve. This is where bourbon starts to feel elegant. Right away, the texture is smoother. The sweetness is rounder. There's a softness here that the bottles below didn't quite achieve. You get caramel, gentle spice, a touch of dried fruit, and it all feels integrated. Nothing jumps out too aggressively. It feels polished. For beginners, that polish matters. The heat is present, but controlled. The finish lingers without turning dry. The sweetness carries through instead of fading early. Woodford doesn't try to impress you with intensity. It wins with balance. And for many people, this is the first bottle that feels genuinely enjoyable from start to finish. So, why not higher? Because the top 4 don't just feel smooth, they feel intentional. Woodford is safe, refined, reliable. But number 4 starts to add personality without losing that comfort. Number 4, Buffalo Trace. This is where beginners usually start smiling. From the first sip, it feels approachable. Sweet caramel, soft vanilla, a smooth entry that doesn't fight back. The texture is easy. The spice is present but gentle. And the finish fades clean instead of drying out. It feels friendly, not simple, friendly. Buffalo Trace doesn't overwhelm you with proof or oak. It introduces itself gradually, and that matters when you're just learning how bourbon behaves. For many people, this is the bottle that makes them think, okay, I get it. It's balanced, it's comfortable, it's easy to revisit. So why isn't it in the top 3? Because the next bottles don't just feel smooth, they feel more deliberate. Buffalo Trace is a gateway, but the top-tier bottles create a stronger first impression, and number 3 is where bourbon starts feeling truly intentional. Number 3, Four Roses Small Batch. This is where bourbon stops feeling casual and starts feeling deliberate. From the first sip, you notice balance, soft fruit notes, gentle spice, a sweetness that feels layered instead of loud. Nothing jumps out to dominate. Nothing feels out of place. It's composed. In a market full of bottles trying to be bigger, stronger, higher proof, this one wins by staying controlled. The texture is smooth without being thin. The spice is present without being sharp. The finish lingers in a calm, steady way. For beginners, this often feels like a turning point. It's the moment bourbon starts tasting intentional instead of accidental. So why not number 1? Because the top 2 bottles represent 2 very different philosophies. One builds strength, the other builds comfort. And that's where the real debate begins. Number 2, Wild Turkey 101. And yes, I know. Some of you already think this should be number one. At 101 proof, it has power, real power, deep caramel, bold vanilla, confident spice that shows up immediately and stays. This isn't shy bourbon. It has presence. Experienced drinkers love it for that reason. It feels structured. It feels honest. It feels like bourbon with backbone. And long-term, it absolutely wins. The body is fuller. The finish lingers longer. The spice builds instead of fading. But this list is about beginners. And for someone taking their first serious sip, 101 proof can feel intense. The warmth sticks around. The spice hits early. It demands attention. Wild Turkey 101 builds loyalty over time. But as a first introduction, it can ask a little too much. And that brings us to number one. Number one, Maker's Mark Original. And before you argue, hear this clearly. For beginners, bourbon isn't about intensity. It's about approachability. Maker's is wheated. That means no sharp rye spice pushing forward. The sweetness feels round. The entry feels smooth. The burn is controlled instead of explosive. From the first sip, it feels welcoming. Not thin, not aggressive, not dry, just balanced. You don't have to adjust your palate. You don't have to brace for heat. You don't have to convince yourself to like it. It simply works. Wild Turkey 101 wins long-term. Maker's wins first sip. And for someone new to bourbon, first sip decides everything. If that first glass feels comfortable, you'll want a second. And if you want a second, you'll keep exploring. That's what makes Maker's Mark the best starting point in 2026. Here's the truth. The first bottle doesn't just introduce you to bourbon, it decides whether you ever come back to it. Start too bold, and you might walk away thinking bourbon just isn't for you. Start balanced, and suddenly you're curious. Curious about oak, about spice, about what makes one bottle different from the next. That first sip decides everything. So I want to know, what was your first bourbon? Did it pull you in or push you away? If you want to choose better from here on out, subscribe. We're breaking this down bottle by bottle, because next we're settling the debate. Wild Turkey 101, Maker's Mark, head to head.